welcome to the Star Podcast at AAERT in St. Louis. I'm Deanna Oaks, and this is Melissa Looney. She is a court reporting firm owner and previous transcriptionist, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what it was like on her journey in her career. So how did you get started?
My husband and I moved our family from Florida to Tennessee back in 2005.
Okay.
And I got a job at a local police department, and part of my duties were to transcribe police interviews. They don't call them interrogations, but that's what they are.
Oh, so when they're in the room with a two-way mirror thing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But they would record them on little cassettes.
Okay.
And then part of my job I worked for the major crimes unit was to transcribe these into transcripts so they could use them in court and so on.
Okay.
So while I was doing that, I did that for a couple of years, and then I was just looking for some way to make extra money, and one of the investigators said, hey, my wife does medical transcription. You should look into transcribing, after hours. And I thought, I don't want to do medical. I definitely don't want to do that. So,
oh my gosh, because everything's in Latin.
Yes. How do I get into this?
Yeah.
So I just started Googling and just met people online and got introduced to like forums where they discuss transcribing, and I got on doing general transcription, and I did that starting in 2008.
Okay.
And then I made friends through these forums, and they were doing legal, and I was like, how do I get into legal? And like you said earlier, there's a lot of gatekeeping. Because I would say, how are you getting all this work? Because they're talking about how many minutes they have to transcribe every day, and it was, if we tell you, we have to kill you.
Oh, it's like that.
Yeah, it was, but I think it was friendly.
Of course.
It was,
Yeah.
So, but through that, I was able to get a general transcription contract made friends with legal people. I made friends with legal transcribers, and I just found one that was willing to take a chance and work with me. And she literally was on messaging and a messaging app with me during the day. And I would say, how do I do this? Do I transcribe that? How do I format this? Where does the court go? And she helped me learn to format legal transcripts.
Oh my gosh, that is so remarkable and so important to have that community.
Yeah, mentors. We really need mentors in this industry.
Yeah.
So through her, she introduced me to a company who took a chance. I said, look, I'll work hard. And within 6 months of getting on with them, I got certified.
Nice.
Got my CET.
Oh, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, so thank you.
6 months is doable. Granted, you had a lot of, work history behind you at that
Right.
point, but the certification process, for me, it was so long. It took me so long. And
Yeah.
it's daunting, the amount of money that you pay for college
really
and all of
is.
those things. 6 months sounds like something, people can handle.
Yeah. But because I was doing it day in and day out, it was what I was doing. I knew the stuff, and then I just had to study for what was going to be on the test.
Okay.
And it was, I would say it was intimidating, but I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
And back then you had to travel. You couldn't just go on your computer and register and take a test online.
Oh,
I had to go
right.
down to Florida, take a test. I had to go to a location, meet with someone with a proctor in the room, take my computer, the whole deal.
Oh, wow. So now why did you go to Florida? Because you wanted to get certified in Florida, or?
No, the CET is not state specific.
Okay.
But that was just where they were having the testing that particular month.
Got it. So
They held it in different locations.
Well, it's nice of them to move it around at
Yes.
least, because I know in some places, California, I think I don't know if it's like this anymore, but they would only do the testing twice a year.
Oh,
So
my
if you
goodness.
didn't make it, or if you graduated
Yeah.
right after the test, you had to wait 6 months. So that's almost
Wow.
like deflating, you've just graduated, but
Yeah.
you can't take the test kind of a thing. So at least they have them frequently and they moved it
Yes,
around
they
a
did.
little
And
bit.
now it's great because you can schedule it tonight in your pajamas and your house and take
Yes.
it, in a week.
Yeah.
And it's also at night in your pajamas if you really want to.
Right, yeah.
They've really made it a lot easier for you to get certified.
Which is great because we don't need anything to make our lives harder, especially after all the studying and all of the work that you've put in to get yourself to be knowledgeable and qualified. The test taking should not be, the test anxiety should not make your life so hard. But I have that.
You're
big
exactly
time.
right. Yeah, it really should be an easy process. And I'm on the AAERT board, and we are constantly looking at ways that we can improve the testing procedure for the applicants so that they don't suffer any of that unneeded anxiety in preparing and getting registered to take the test.
I love that. Did you guys hear that? No anxiety when you're taking your test. That's fabulous.
Well, no unneeded anxiety.
Yeah.
As much
At
as
least-
we can out.
At least not from your end. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So I transcribed for many years. I went full time. I left my job at the police department, and in 2010 or 11, I went full time
With the company that you had said took a chance on you, and you
Yes.
got to, okay.
Well,
perfect.
and then I started expanding. Getting other contracts because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. It's just nerve-wracking. A lot of people do, and it works fine for them, but I was nervous about that. So I was expanding, and you're always looking for, as you gain more experience, where you can make a little bit more money. You know, who's gonna pay me more for having a CET? Who's gonna pay me more for fewer lines on a page, or whatever it might be? And you're just constantly progressing in that. So I did that for until 2019, when I was introduced to my now business partner, who was he was looking for someone to grow their legal department. And I started growing that, and then the pandemic hit in 2020, of course, as we all know. And then we were lucky enough not to have to lay off anyone during that period, but we took that time to really focus on training and quality, and we also started learning everything we could learn about digital court reporting.
Good for
And
you.
because I'd been transcribing for all the years, I knew what a court reporter did, at least the basics, at least what part affected me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to learn more about that. We hired a consultant, we learned what we could learn, and we also got our CER certification during that period of time.
That is an amazing use of the pandemic. All I did was eat and drink and walk the dogs.
I kind of wish that's what I had done. But, it's all part of the journey, and it's where we ended up now, because now Billy Allred, he and I opened up Superior Court Reporting last April, and we are not only a court reporting firm, but we also do transcription work for other firms.
Oh, that's awesome.
And using the background that I have and what it was like for me as a transcriber, we've tried to build that team of community and the things that I felt were missing as a transcriber. Bonnie mentioned before that being alone was hard.
Yes.
And it is hard when you're all by yourself. Now, some people completely don't want to ever talk to anyone else on the planet. That's
sure.
fine. But there are plenty of people that they want to reach out and say, hey, this guy on this transcript's driving me crazy. He says okay after every other word,
Yes.
And it's just nice to have that camaraderie and that little, like the office water cooler scenario that you really can't capture working at home.
Agreed. And that is something that, yes, is very much a common, I think, sentiment throughout reporting, is just that unless you are in the official world where you actually go into the courthouse and
The real world.
I know, right? I know. But there's, pros and cons to both,
Definitely.
right? Not having
Definitely.
to drive to work and sit in traffic and pay for parking, that is my favorite, absolutely.
Yeah. After being independent, I don't ever want to work where I have to leave the house ever again.
Right. It's your terms, which I think is really important for people to know, because a lot of people don't realize exactly what's going on. People are just, they see CSI or whatever Hollywood puts on, and they just think, that's how it is. But there's so many things that happen behind the scenes that people have no concept of. And what I think is the most inspiring is the fact that you did it yourself. You're your own boss. You were able to accomplish so much and on your own terms, which can seem so daunting when you don't have any idea. You think you got to clock in somewhere and work for someone, especially when you're getting your very first job, 16 or whatever it might be. And there's opportunities out there. I mean, I'm sure
absolutely.
you have tons of work.
We get asked to do more work than we can possibly do. We turn away work, or we tell our clients we can't accept more than this amount of volume in a day. And when they try, we really have to work and look and try to see where we can squeeze things in, because we do try to accommodate. There are things that come up that are urgent requests, and we might have to say, that's fine, we can take this urgent request, but we're going to have to push out some of the regular work a little bit.
Right.
So there's never not enough work. There's an abundance of work out there, both court reporting and transcribing. It's unbelievable how much work there is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gatekeeping, not in our industry specifically, but just in general around the whole idea of rates and who you work for and this kind of thing. But there's enough work for everyone. We don't have to be so like, oh my gosh, you're taking my work from me. And gatekeeping might not have been the right word, but that.
No, I think it is.
Concern of, you're going to take something from me.
Yes.
But I feel like that's really not the case. It might be the case in some select markets if you're the only reporter, or you're a reporter or a transcriber in an area where it's very specific to that area and there's only a certain amount of work that can be done in that area.
Right.
But I really don't think overall, as across the country, that this is a problem.
Right.
There's more work to go around.
Yeah. And now that everything is remote, I took a deposition with the attorney was in Hawaii this week.
Right.
So, I mean, even that, tiny example hopefully is becoming a little bit more obsolete as our reach becomes so much further and
Definitely.
so much more powerful. So as a owner, as a business owner, do you find yourself split between, should I only hire digital reporters? Do you have a preference? I mean, how has that transition been for you, coming from a transcriptionist background?
Well, currently we do only have digital reporters, but it's not so much that that's all we're willing to hire. I think that there are several reasons behind that. I think a lot of the stenographers, they already have their business. They're not really looking to get on with firms, or maybe they are and we're just not one of them, because we do advertise as being digital, but we are open to other ideas as long as we can figure out a process for the entire system to work, whether or not it's if it's a steno that wants to come in and work for us, maybe they do their own transcript, because they're not necessarily going to be providing us with audio to send to a transcriber like a digital is.
Right.
So it's a little bit outside of our normal pattern of how the workflow goes, but it's not something that we're unwilling to do. It's just
And I think at the end of the day, what it sounds like you're saying is, what we want to do is create a transcript, so it doesn't matter how the content gets to us, as long as we can produce an accurate transcript.
That's right.
Which is really important. Unfortunately, people might have this concept that it has to be one or the other, and it really doesn't. I think we're stronger together, and
absolutely,
we can learn from each other. Like your example with your mentor, you need to have that network of people to kind of rely on, and just expand the capability of our professional community. We're able to do more together.
Absolutely. And something you said earlier about, how I did it on my own and all of this thing. I didn't really do it on my own. If it weren't for mentors, I would not be here. If it weren't for relationships and building and coming to events like this where you meet people who introduce you to people, we would not be here today. Billy and I were talking about last night how someone that he met 5 years ago introduced him to someone who introduced him to me, who I introduced to Bonnie, who Bonnie hired our current QA lead, and how she hired another QA team member who is here with us today. And none of that would have been possible had Billy not met that person 5 years ago.
Right, because it takes a village.
It really does.
And that's why we keep saying we're stronger together.
Absolutely.
It is about those relationships and just learning what you can and not being scared to be educated by other methodologies, other mentalities, all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's really important to keep that sentiment alive and maybe even plant that seed, right? Because in some places it's not even there yet. So we really got to let people know. So as a firm owner, what would you say was your biggest hurdle, your biggest accomplishment? Like, what are you the most proud of? This is the hardest question.
It is, I know. I even thought about it while you were talking to her. The biggest hurdle, or the thing I'm most proud of, is that we are offering opportunities to people who might not otherwise have them, because we're not gatekeeping. If you want to learn and you're willing to work hard, come work with us. We're going to work with you. We're going to take you under our wing and help you figure this out. And that's real important to me, because I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for someone willing to do that for me. And so I want to continue to do that and spread that, and hopefully that will just continue to go in that direction. Just pass it on.
Absolutely. And it's so remarkable. And why don't you go ahead and tell the audience your firm. Where are you? Where can they go to?
Sure. Superior Reporting is the name of our company, and our website is superiorreporter.com.
Okay.
And we have a link there called Openings, and you can go there and apply to work with us if you want.
Okay, that's great. I'm most interested to find out, what would you say if you were talking to an 18-year-old who said, I don't know what I want to do? Because so many of us had to take a long time to kind of get to a place where, we found something that we could really make a successful living at.
Yeah, I actually have a 24-year-old and a 26-year-old, so I think I might be qualified to answer this question.
Yeah, you definitely are.
I would say don't be afraid to take chances, try new things, and you don't have to decide your lifelong career when you're 18.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's also a plus to being in this industry. It's something that you can do on your own terms.
Yes.
You can start it as young as you want to. You can start it as late as you want to. And you really have the same opportunities.
Absolutely. And with court reporting especially, transcribing is a special skill that I think takes a little bit longer to master and be successful financially at, is depending on what your financial goals are. You can certainly be successful right out of the gate, but you're going to start at a lower rate until you've proven yourself, until you get certified, until you have more experience that you can get on with companies that pay more. So that takes a little bit of time. However, court reporting, you can go to a court reporting school. an online school. Learn court reporting in practically no time. I think you could be court reporting in a matter of 6 months and making money.
That is
and doing
amazing.
that. So if you decide, hey, court reporting is not for me, you haven't invested 2 years of your life.
Right. Not like me.
And you don't have student loan debt, and you're
Yeah.
not thinking, oh my gosh, I spent all this time and I don't really like this. I don't want to do this.
Right.
So it's something you definitely, I do think it's a very good career option that you can try. And try it on for size. See how it fits. Maybe you love it. Maybe you don't. Or maybe it leads to other things that you would love. There's a lot of areas in our industry that need to be covered, not only court reporting, but videography, being a professional videographer, and transcribing, managing, being a scheduler. It's endless, I feel like, what the options are.
Yeah.
And you don't know what those are until you kind of get in the mix and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's job security. We were talking about this before, just the fact that the legal field is always going to exist.
Exactly.
And so there's just a endless opportunity for you, and I think that's just a wonderful sense of security to have.
Absolutely.
And so much opportunity. Do you have anything that, as we wrap this up, that you want to sort of share with people, let them know? Just any last words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom, that's a tough one. Well, even, it's the same at any age you are. You specifically mentioned 18-year-olds, the young folks coming up and entering the career field, but you can change your career. You could be a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 70-year-old and decide, hey, maybe I want to do court reporting. It's the same scenario.
Yeah.
6 months, you can be court reporting.
Yeah.
Technology might be challenging for you, but if you find mentors that can help you, you find good companies that are offering training opportunities, and you can learn how to use that. If you're willing to learn, there are opportunities out there for you.
There sure are lots of opportunities. Well, thank you so much for talking with us,
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast with Melissa Looney. Tune in next time.